Hello, and welcome. As someone who spent years at the intersection of hospitality, AI, and operations, I can tell you one thing for sure. Success isn't just built within the walls of your hotel, it's built through powerful connections. Today, we're diving into the art and science of strategic partnerships.
So think of this as your masterclass. We're going to explore a really critical part of modern hotel strategy, building powerful partnerships that actually work. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll talk about why these partnerships are so crucial. Then, we'll get into the different models, starting with the basics and moving to the more complex stuff. And finally, we'll give you a real blueprint to turn all this theory into action. All right, let's get into it. So, first things first, why should you even care about this? Well, in today's super crowded market, just having a great hotel isn't always enough. Your real competitive edge, that often comes from who you align with outside your own four walls. It really brings up a fundamental question, doesn't it? With so much competition out there, how do the top hotels keep innovating and delivering value that lasts? Well, more and more, the answer is collaboration. And that gets us to the absolute core concept here. Partnership design. Look, this isn't about just getting lucky or stumbling into a good relationship. It's a deliberate process. You're basically being an architect, designing how value is going to be created, delivered, and sustained for everyone involved, especially for your guest. Okay, so how does this look in the real world? We're going to start simple with what I call the foundational models. Think of these as the essential building blocks of any good collaboration. They're easy to get started with and really effective. A great way to picture this whole journey is to imagine a collaboration ladder. You start on that first rung with the simple agreements, and then, as you build trust and your goals start to align, you can climb your way up to deeper, more integrated partnerships. So that first rung is the referral agreement. This is about as straightforward as it gets. A local tour company recommends your hotel. You recommend their tours. Seems simple, right? But for it to actually work, it all hinges on two things. You've got to have mutual trust, and you need a crystal clear way to track those referrals so it's fair for everybody. Now let's take one step up the ladder to joint marketing. This is where two brands pool their money and their effort for promotions. It is a fantastic way to get your message out to totally new audiences, all while splitting the costs and, the risks. The absolute key here, though, is brand alignment. Your message and your target customer have to make sense together. Let's just put these two side by side for a second. With a referral agreement, your primary goal is just lead generation, plain and simple. With joint marketing, you're trying to expand your entire audience. You can see the complexity is still pretty low for both, but the secret to success totally shifts from just trust and tracking to a much deeper sense of brand alignment. Okay, you ready to climb a little higher? We're moving past the simple stuff now and getting into partnerships that are way more integrated, both operationally and at the brand level. This is where you can start to create those truly unique guest experiences. Step 3 is co-branding. Now, this is a really powerful move where two brands come together to create a shared product or experience. Think of a luxury hotel partnering up with a famous spa brand. It enhances both of their reputations. But this requires some really careful management to make sure both brands are protected. And here we are at the very top of our ladder, service integration. This is the deepest kind of collaboration you can have. We're talking about things like integrating your tech systems, or aligning loyalty programs, or creating shared guest services. It takes a ton of coordination, but the result? A totally seamless experience that your guests will absolutely remember. So, look, understanding all these models is one thing, but actually choosing and implementing the right one, that's a whole different ballgame. So let's shift gears from theory to action and talk about how you can build your own partnership blueprint. So how do you choose? It really boils down to 4 critical questions you have to ask yourself. First, what are your strategic goals? Second, what resources do you actually have? Time, money, people. Third, how ready and willing is your potential partner? And finally, and this is a big one, what's the potential for this thing to grow over time? And that brings me to this piece of advice, which I think is just brilliant. The best partnerships aren't set in stone. They need to be designed as scalable structures that can grow and adapt, not rigid frameworks that are just going to break under pressure. And once you've got that design figured out, you have to document it. Seriously, this is a step that separates a casual chat from a real professional partnership. A good agreement takes all those good intentions and turns them into a clear, actionable plan.
So, what needs to be in that agreement? Well, at a bare minimum, you need these four things. First, define the scope. What exactly are we doing together? Second, clarify who is responsible for what. Third, set performance indicators. How will we know if we're winning? And last, set up clear communication channels to keep everything running smoothly.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take a look at the world around you, apply these models, and get creative. Ask yourself, what untapped partnership is out there just waiting for you to design it that could completely redefine the guest experience? The possibilities are out there, you just have to build them.